Why don't you set the scene a little bit for us and talk about this character and who you are, and what she's sort of facing in the film.
All the World is Sleeping is the story about Chama, who is a young mother from New Mexico that is struggling with generational substance abuse. She grew up in a house where her mom was an addict, and as much as she tried to not turn out like her mom, it's hard to break out of those patterns. So we see her struggle with her addiction, and they take her daughter away. And so the movie is her trying to get clean to get her daughter back. But in the midst of an addiction, it's hard to do it by yourself. And we see her get turned away by the people that she seeks help from. And so it's basically a one woman journey to get sober and to get her family back.
Yeah, these roles are hard when you're playing someone with a substance use problem. Did you model this on any person that you knew, or did you do any sort of research to get into the role?
Oh, this movie is based on 7 women. 7 women wrote the script basically with Ryan, our director.
Yeah.
And it's every single thing that happens in the movie happened to at least one of them, and if not more, because I think all of them got their children taken away at one point or another. And I had these 7 women with me on set. At least one of them was with me on set every day. So they were basically my consultants. Every single thing that I did, I consulted with them first, and they would walk me through exactly how everything had to be done, exactly how, the withdrawal symptoms happen. And so I had, that very valuable tool on set to guide me through this process. And all I wanted was to do right by them, to do right by their stories, and to make it as real and raw as possible, as honest as possible, so that anyone that has gone through something like that in their life could see themselves represented. Because in the end, this is a story about hope. It's a story about a woman that it's not that she's victorious at the end, because it is an ongoing battle. What these women would tell me is that every day is a struggle. Even if they've been clean for years, every single day the temptation is there. It's an illness, it's a disease. So I wanted that to be very, very evident. And I felt very fortunate to have them with me during the entire process.
Yeah. What were some of the sort of insights that they gave you, like a specific thing that happened to them, or maybe something that turned up in the movie that you really wanted to get across in the film?
Well, I think the most important thing for me, because all of the things that happen in the movie are real life occurrences for them. The when Chama locks herself in her room to get clean by herself because she's been turned away by the rehab centers, that's real. That happened to Doreen. Getting her children taken away, that happened to Patricia. And like relapsing and overdosing, like all of them have gone through that. But to me, what struck me the most, because I spend a lot of time with these women in their homes and meeting their families, and I really wanted to just get in their minds. And because this movie all happens in Chama's head, we're privy to her thoughts. We know how she reasons with herself. We know why, when she makes the decisions that she makes, how hard it is for her, and how overwhelming certain like normal situations for us are for people like her. And I remember sitting with Doreen in her house. I was playing with her kids, and we were talking, and she's so open too. Like, they were so open. They would talk about it openly in front of their children. I guess it's like not a secret, right? Everything's out in the open when you have a life like that. And she told me that the most painful thing that they could say to her was, how can you love drugs more than your kids? If you really loved your family, you would just leave the drugs. And she was like, that's not how it works. It's literally like, I'm not choosing the drugs. It's life or death. Like I feel like if I don't get high, I will die. And so it's not even a choice for them. And it's I think a very common misconception that we are walking down the street and we see someone getting high in a corner and we're like, why don't they just stop and go get a job? As if it were like an easy thing to do. We are lucky that we don't have addictive personalities. You know, I when I first read the script, I was mind blown because Chama and I are so similar in the way that we think, in the little games that we play in our heads. And I was shocked because I was like, maybe if I had been born somewhere else into another family and had been exposed to this as a kid, maybe I would have been Chama, you know? And it's really all about that. It's really all about where you happen to be born and what you're exposed to in your day-to-day life when you're growing up. And that's why it was so important for Ryan to show young Chama and what her mother was like with her, and the things that, you know, they say you can run as far as you can, but you always kind of turn to your parents, whether you want it or not. And it's so true with transgenerational trauma and substance abuse. It's really hard to break out of that, but it is possible. And so I just love that we're finally sharing this movie. We've waited for 3 years to put it out there because, you know, independent films, that's, you know, sometimes the life.
Yeah.
But I'm so excited because these women just want their story out there. They want the issue to not be taboo. They want to be seen as human beings.
Mhm.
There's a line in the movie that I love, and it says the only thing worse than being seen as invisible is being seen as disposable.
Mhm.
And that's a lot of the feeling that these people go through when they're like, it takes them so much courage and so much to get to the point where they want to seek help, and then they get turned away because people are like, oh, they're just gonna go right back or whatever, which is true sometimes, but they just need insistence. It is a personal choice. They have to make it themselves. They have to decide to get clean. It can't be anyone else, but they need help.
Yeah. Did you feel a sense of responsibility to these women, having built these relationships, to really, you know, do the best job that you could do to portray these struggles?
Oh yeah, I was terrified. I got the role, which I never thought that I would. I was so shocked when I did. And I was so happy because normally when I read scripts like that, and when I read a character that's so good, they're usually like, yeah, she's good, but we're gonna offer it to, you know, insert name of famous person, of celebrity, you know, like an A-lister. And because this is such an indie movie, Ryan was open to casting whoever. And I transformed myself for the audition. I walked for like an hour and a half to get there because I wanted to like be like sweaty in LA. And and then the next day he called me and he was like, you're Chama. And I was so excited to work with Jackie and with Jorge, and, you know, like a Latino cast, because obviously New Mexico is a very heavy Latinx population. And it's a very real struggle there. Ryan is from there, and in his family there's substance abuse. So every person involved had a personal connection with this. And when I got to Albuquerque, I sat down in Bold Futures with the women in a circle, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna meet, you know, women that have gone through this. I had no idea that they had written the script with Ryan. And when I started listening to them and their stories, and it like literally clicked in my brain in that second, and I started crying because I was terrified that I was portraying real women. And it's, you know, it's that extra level of responsibility because, you know, you want to do right by them, and it's their story and they're alive to like see you do it. And I was also very humbled that they had trusted me with it, and they had like chosen me to be Chama. And it was a very intense 16-day shoot. It was it was crazy. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Like it was insane, but I'm so grateful that I did it and that I had all of them and that we were there in Las Cruces. And it was such an intimate environment because it was, you know, bare bones production. It was all friends of friends coming to help out. The catering was a friend that cooked in their house and brought us food. The trailer, the one trailer that we had was our sound department, his personal trailer for vacations that he like went across country with. He lent it to us for like hair and makeup and for all of us to change in there. And we would just like hang out in chairs outside. The house of one of the producers was Chama's house. The house of another one was my childhood house. You know, like it was all friends, a community coming together to tell this important story. And it was incredible.
Yeah, no, that really comes across. Well, so I'm curious because I happened to just see In the Heights, and which I'm guessing was not a small production. The first time I was back in the theater in about 16 months or whatever. So talk about the difference about going for something that's so indie and so small and personal to something that's so gigantic and over the top and amazing. What was the difference between going and telling a story on such a small scale and telling something on such a massive scale like that?
Oh my God, it's a completely different world to have, you know, our DP and All the World is Sleeping, he was our operator, you know, like we had one camera and it was all, you know, I was on set all day, every day, because it was a 16-day shoot. And it was a lot. If you think on the movie, there's so many scenes that it was like a crazy, like long hour days, but it was, you're in it, you know, you're in it all the time and everyone's in it all the time. And you're like, you tell yourself, this is 16 days of like intensity. I'm probably not going to sleep, but you know what? It like, I'll make it part of the character, you know, like it's all these things that you like brainwash yourself for, like, this is the commitment and this is what we're going to do. And everyone's on the same page. And when you're on a big studio movie, like In the Heights, it's like, well, you know, completely different because it's like a musical and it's like huge crew and like cranes and like gear that I'd never seen before in my life and lights everywhere and the locations are incredible and you're closing the streets and it's just Hollywood, you know, like the definition of like Hollywood is those big studio productions. And but there's something really magical and beautiful about the indie films that that it's so collaborative and you feel like you're all creating this like piece together. You're not just one like chess piece or one piece of the puzzle of like a gigantic thing. You feel like it's more ownership, I guess. I don't know what it is, but I think it's the balance, you know, like I think at least for me in my career, I want to do both because there's magic in both. And doing the big films, the big commercial studio films will allow me to keep doing these like tiny indie movies that are like the passion projects.